Hello dear friends, this is a video for December 2025. In the video I will say something about important celestial events and then I will say what this new moon that will happen in Sagittarius sign will bring to all of the zodiac signs. This will be in the second part of this video. I want to remind you that these videos bring inspiration for understanding what is happening to us. They do not predict events. I think we can talk about dispositions that we have through certain transits and aspects, and it's up to us, it's up to everyone to choose how to integrate them. As it's not possible to predict 100%, maybe if you follow my videos that I'm not doing that, because I believe it's not possible, at least not in an easy way. Maybe people who are clairvoyants and such people can say something about the future and be certain, but we can't do that in an easy way or through astrology. And that's why I'm not even trying to do that. I understand astrology, as I said, as the possibility. Astrology speaks about dispositions, and we can do with a certain energy whatever we want basically, but in the frame, within the frame of a certain model. So let's talk about that in that way about December. On the 5th is going to be the full moon in Gemini, and on the 20th is the new moon in Sagittarius. Sun is until the 21st in Sagittarius, then in Capricorn. Mercury until the 11th in Scorpio, then in Sagittarius. Venus in Sagittarius until the 24th, then in Capricorn. Mars in Sagittarius until the 15th, then in Capricorn. Jupiter is now retrograde in the sign of Crab, or to say Cancer. Saturn is in Pisces. Uranus is still retrograde in Taurus. And Neptune from the 11th, direct in Pisces. Pluto is, of course, in Aquarius. So, new moon is happening on the 5th in Gemini. It's at the 13th degree. It ends what we started at the end of May this year. There is some drama going on in the field of finance and businesses. However, many harmonious aspects hint at the successful completion of one phase. Although the sign of Gemini is under the influence of the air element, this new moon brings richer harmonious feelings. Those who take care of their soul will be influenced by lucky aspects from Guru, which is Jupiter, who guides them and bestows them. So it's very interesting that the question of feelings, the question of inner stability, the question of understanding of the soul path is actually here crucial, but the moon is positioned in the air sign. During this December, there are many difficult aspects, I have to say, unfortunately. As early as the 8th of December is the square of Saturn and Mars, which is a very tough aspect. That pressures somebody, and there is this pressure to do something which is blocked by somebody, Nothing can happen, everything seems blocked and tough. And on the 14th, there is a square between Mars and Neptune, which can be some secret war, some prisoning people, frightening people, these kind of things. And all of those hits at the tipping point that ends an old model that we have lived in by a recent years. That's why December now is important. EU leaders want war, and many among them are influenced by neo-fascist ideology, even if they pretend that they're something else. Unfortunately, many people still do not understand it. But European politicians work for those groups who never have enough. You know what I mean, I guess. I'm not going to say everything openly in this video because I already have problems with YouTube a little because they control my views. Nothing specially, but they do that, so I'm a little careful. Okay, but we can say that in Russia, the same groups are also present in big quantities. But at least in Russia, there is anti-fascist movement. which again puts this country in a situation to fight against this ideology. The exit of Saturn and Neptune from the sign of Pisces will be a key event for Russia, and during the next 2 or 3 months, or let's say even 5 months, it will be seen whether they are able to fight against this insane fascist ideology or not. Because they have pressure inside, but when Saturn and Neptune leave Pisces, this pressure can be somehow annihilated. The Sun and the minor planets transiting through the sign of Sagittarius make squares also with Saturn and Neptune, which are at the last degrees of Pisces. So we all feel that extremely important things are preparing to happen. And maybe the most important will be the last 10 days of December, let's say it. In that time, these rare combinations will appear among the planets that will repeat only in 160 and more years, Unfortunately, these aspects that are so significant now, before Saturn and Neptune leave Pisces, they are not harmonious. On the contrary, they warn of deep conflict that are the product of lies, massive hypnosis. They are the product of manipulations that we experience over the internet and through invisible technologies that are widely used. Please note that there are fewer and fewer live people talking on YouTube, and there is more artificial intelligence, which is creating its own channels and its own content. And we know that there is a fight for the human brain happening, which we can say also fight for a human consciousness, or to say by old terminology, this is the struggle for the human soul. Who will take it, overtake it, let's say. So why is it so important to keep people in the state of unconsciousness and ignorance? Well, first of all, they don't live in a complete ignorance and without consciousness, but their knowledge is modeled by the media and the internet, so their consciousness is also modeled. Many people who believe in the same thing create a certain egregor, which is the energy, let's say. So many people who believe in their story create an egregor that supports that story. That's why people are so important. Otherwise, the crazy people who want to rule the world wouldn't be in the business of selling crazy news and stuff on the internet and everywhere else. However, each of us chooses whether to believe the official narrative or not. And they also choose their own destinies by separating lies for the sake of manipulation, by spreading lies for the sake of manipulation. Each of their choices is fine, as each of our choices also. We learn something from everything we do and we choose to do. But each one has consequences. This is the important thing. We can say to this universe it's basically the same whether we will integrate our lessons by doing positive or negative things. Finally, it's important, what is the consequence? So let's take as an example the fact that everyone is in debt. So a certain pattern of living has been creating according to which one should constantly be in debt, regardless of whether it's individual or these are states. And this also has consequences. And now we are coming to the stage when the credit bubble can burst in some way. And you are maybe wondering, is it possible to avoid that again, as many times before, and as for example in 2008? Well, as far as I know, and you maybe know, we are managed by a quantum computer. So I guess one can always press the button, to say that naively, pardon about this, and can change the state of things, but that also has consequences. It is the question, is it needed to do that now? So just from December until next 6 months, it is going to be the period when many people will bear the consequences of their past behavior, and this can be potentially something very unique. This month, Mercury comes out of its shadow on the 17th, and from that day on, better can be communication, trade, and so on. Generally, life can be a bit more dynamic, but Mercury influences these simple daily things. It cannot influence the world events. So we can even say that the first 3 weeks of December have some enthusiasm, doesn't matter of the harsh aspects, as long as the Sun, Venus and Mars are in the sign of Sagittarius, which is the lucky sign. Jupiter is now retrograde in the sign of Crab, or to say Cancer, until March next year. It will show, now while it's retrograde, what we need to be emotionally stable and have peace in mind. Further, the attitude towards home and family will be reevaluated, and in order for a reevaluation to occur, something needs to happen. So those who have home loans will potentially have challenges, and generally can be challenges considering houses and apartments where people live. And also those people who want to start their own families can also have some sort of dilemmas, or there can be some sort of dilemmas generally in families while Jupiter is retrograde. On the December the 20th is the new moon in Sagittarius in the 28th degree. The Sun and the Moon make the conjunction with Venus. Mercury is also in Sagittarius, but it's not affected by the conjunction. Mars is nearby, but I follow the rule of Jyotish that says that Mars cannot be part of this conjunction if it's not in the same sign. It is in the sign of Capricorn. A square appears with Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, with all of those planets. And Neptune and Saturn are in the last degrees of Pisces. It is very, very difficult to collect depths with this square footage. And depths are one of the main topics of Western society that affect other parts of the global village, as they call our world today. So in the next 6 months, debt collection or borrowing money will reach a critical point. However, we know that it is not the only debt. What is happening, it's never, every new moon has a lot of symbols and can symbolize many different things. So we also see here that so-called successful rich countries are destroying their economy for political reasons, which only facilitates the consolidation of the rest of the world. And of course, it is clear, and we speak about that in those videos for years, this is that transition from one center of power to new power centers. And this transition has a significant phase now. It's like, let's say, from December on next 5 to 6 months. The ruler of this new moon is Jupiter, who is retrograde in the sign of Crab. Better not to have retrograde Jupiter in Crab, because then it behaves like it's in Capricorn. So the problem is quite big, as we see. The protection is not that strong as Jupiter was direct. However, it is interesting that Jupiter also has good aspects even to Saturn and Neptune. It may mean that there is some solution and it's not everything lost. But this is quite a weak impulse when we take in consideration everything else, but it is there. Also, at the same time, Uranus is at the last degrees of Taurus. So, unfortunately, what happens on the new moon follows us next 6 months. So, according to the horoscope of new moon, we have Taurus in Sagittarius in the last degrees with us next half of a year. Otherwise, Uranus will change the sign, go to the sign of Gemini at the end of April. But we will integrate that change of the sign in a slow way. So, what we know now, also with this Uranus at the last degrees of Taurus, It is that something reached the point of culmination and the end is near. The state of tension cannot last much longer, and some reversal is coming in the next months. Of course, this new moon does not only symbolize debts and problems in the financial era, it's also values generally it's not only about values, it also concerns talents, abilities, and relationships. There comes a time when many will ask themselves whether to maintain old relationships or not, whether to do something completely different and use some other abilities to earn money. And Sagittarius themselves especially, and especially those who have planets in the last decade of Sagittarius, meaning between 20 and 29 degrees, especially those people will deal with these issues that we mentioned. When I say Sagittarius, I mean those who have Sun in Sagittarius and Ascendant also. In particular, their theme is to discover new talents and to discover new values. Pardon? It's true. It's true about Sagittarius. Sorry about this. So discovering new talents and new values, it will be their subject for the next 6 months, let's say. So as I said that for Sagittarius, I will say what the new moon brings to other zodiac signs. And I'm doing this because this is the last new moon in 2025, and you will carry this energy into the next year. So in order for you to know what will carry to the next year, I will describe this new moon, and here it's not that important that actually nothing starts on the 1st of January. For us now it's interesting what the new moon signifies for the next 6 months, so from the new moon until the full moon that will be in Sagittarius next year. So let's see what brings this to Capricorn people. Capricorn people with this new moon in the 12th house have many secrets. Even it's possible that something is hidden from them. And it can be about relationships, partnerships, money, or how much they are valued. In general, a lot happens in the field of partnership for Capricorns because they do not know how to express their thoughts in the right way. So let's hope they will realize that. So what is the subject for Capricorns for the next 6 months? Verbal communication. Then Aquarius. They have new moon in the 11th house. So the way how they cooperate with people on projects and in organizations does not bring them as much money or respect as they would like, perhaps. Also, relationships with friends can be questioned, and they need to work on these topics. But then they should not be too much bothered with this. Actually, their subject for the next 6 months is to concentrate on big goals and not to concentrate that much on money or how they're valued. For Pisces, this new moon is in the very end of the 10th house, while Saturn and Neptune are moving soonly out from their sign. So bingo for Pisces. Although it is not yet clear what they will focus their attention on, in the coming years or months. They achieved something, they learned a lot, and they need to wait a little bit. They are in the last phase. If they are confused, doesn't matter. Things will become clear soon. So what is their subject for the next 6 months? Their subject is patience. For Aries, new moon is happening in their 9th house, which is quite nice. So they need to meet their personal visions and expand their horizons, either through travel, through study, through writing books, or doing something that makes sense to them. The squares suggest that Aries somehow refuse to see the happy circumstances that God gives them. So what is the subject for them? Their subject is going to be the acceptance without reservation or disbelief. So Taurus. Now let's say something about Taurus. The new moon is at the end of the 8th house. It squares the planets in the 11th house. And Uranus is still in their sign, at the end of their sign. So for the next half of a year, they will still be living under the effect of old events. But it would be much easier for them to accept that something has gone irreversibly and to get used to this new situation that they are now in, which is after all in them and it's preparing to be understood for a long time already. But no, many Taurus people are still living the old way. So what is their subject? Well, it is saying goodbye to something very big. I'm not saying what, because I don't know. For every Taurus can be something different. And also something else. To accept the freedom. To accept the freedom. It's not that hard. For Gemini, the new moon is at the end of the 7th house and it's in square with the planets in the 10th house. So it may seem that other people or partner are making obstacles to them to achieve their goals and to be more successful in life. Here they need to be very, very careful because everything that is happening in the 7th house reflects our own shadow. So now they are confronted with their own shadow, which is that part of our personality which is not enlightened by the light of the consciousness. So everything we pass on to others is actually ours. So what is the subject for Gemini? It is self-acceptance. For crabs, or to say Cancer people, the new moon is at the end of the 6th house. So they can feel that they are working a lot and not getting what they want. They need to be organized a little bit better on a daily basis. Maybe not to hurry that much, not to rush all the time somewhere, to do some small details and so on. But if they serve others, that's fine. Just they should do this service with a little bit more respect for themselves. So what is their subject? It is self-esteem. Leo people solve their creativity with this new moon, money question or some investments. They're maybe not able to cope with those subjects, not themselves, they need help. But they are not really ready to ask for help, financial or emotional support or any support. Obstacles also appeared in love relationships or in relationships with those who are close to them. They kind of have nice feelings to some people, but something is in trouble here. And this can be because there is a lack of trust. Everything we said about Leos is a question of trust. So this is their subject for the next 6 months. Trust. Virgos have a new moon in the 4th house. Through family relationships, they learn to develop relationships with others in general. They should not judge others. It is better to accept others as they are and to understand that we all have our own obstacles. So they are in a way learning about understanding others, or maybe we can even say they're learning tolerance. Libras has the new moon in the 3rd house, squaring the planets in the 6th house. Does a lot of movement, a lot of talking, a lot of activity damage health? This is the question. Or is it time to treat work and daily routine differently? Anyway, the topic for Libras is health. For Scorpios, the new moon is in the 2nd house and makes a square to the planets in the 5th house. Perhaps children are draining them financially, or those they love are draining them financially, or they're draining them in a way, or they're not appreciated by those who are dear to their hearts. Or the problem is that they do not manage to pair to sell their creativity in the best possible way. They do something, they create, but they cannot earn anything through that, or things like that can be. So the theme for them is love and setting healthy boundaries in relationship to others. They should do what they want to do, not being too much worried about others. And that is all for now. As you most probably know, I have videos in English, in Serbian and in Czech languages, and then in Serbian and in Czech I have much more materials. I give public lectures, I record many video lessons that are on my web pages, symbolicthinking.net, but I cannot manage to do that in English also. So sorry about that. I'm still glad that you're following my channel in English, and if you wish, you can order personal consultations with me. Just please note that I do not deal with classic astrology. I'm interested in personal development, self-knowledge, astrological psychology, and spiritual astrology that speaks about the path of the soul through the prenatal eclipses and the position of the lunar nodes. Also, if you wish, you can order with me a certain technique. I give consultancy based on this technique. The name of it is The Change of the Code, The Change of the Perception. And this helps us to work with the programs that we are conscious about, but we are subconscious about the cause of it, Or even we know the cause of it, but we don't know what to do and how to change them. So we can work on them. If you like the video, like it, sign up for my channel, and thank you very, very much for that in advance. I wish you luck in everything. Let's praise God and learn from everything that happened to us, because everything has meaning. And see you soon.